Welcome to another episode of Women Investing in Women. Robin and I take tremendous amount of joy and honor to feature week after week different women making different impacts in our world while being lifted up by other women and investing and impacting the lives of others. You're going to absolutely love the conversation today. And I want to preface it with the fact that a successful life for a woman needs to include her financial well-being and her financial freedom. And a woman who understands money, a woman who understands how money works and what money and wealth and her relationship to wealth creation is, she's going to have a more fulfilling life. And with that little hook, I am going to pass this on to Robin so that she can introduce our amazing guest to continue this conversation.
Absolutely. I am really thrilled to introduce Coach Marie Torossian. She is a CPA. She's been an auditor, a controller, a CFO, and she created the Profit Lab, where she helps people with their finances and money investments, and especially helps women with their money and their finances. And I know that this is a very important topic for everyone. And so I would love you to introduce yourself more to our audience and share a little bit about how you got into this field, which is often thought of as a male field, finances and money and CFO and all of that. How did you get into that field? And then how it relates to your working with women?
Yeah, thanks for having me, ladies. I'm super excited to be here. Just a quick intro. As you mentioned, my name is Marie Torossian. I have my CPA, and I'm also a 10X certified business coach. The way I kind of entered into the accounting and finance world is I would go back to the time when I was working with my dad at the age of 11 and trying to do his accounting on I guess a cash basis without just like figuring out as I go. And then when I went to college to study actually hospitality management, and this was back in my country in Lebanon, part of that was doing that first accounting class, accounting 101, and I did not even realize there was even a class like that. And right away I was like, wow, this is something I needed all this time. I'm helping my dad doing things on paper. So that's when I decided to actually get into the field and study accounting. Fast forward, I moved to Montreal. I had a great opportunity to live there for a little bit. Then came to Miami, met my husband, and came down here. That's when I actually picked it back up, went back to college. I studied accounting, got my master's as well, and went into the audit world and thinking this would be an area that I would really like. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't for a little bit, but I don't think that was the place for me. And I moved down to a position as an accounting manager controller for a fairly large chamber of commerce here in Miami, and just moved up the ladder to CFO. And then at some point there was a time I had to push through the glass ceiling, and there was no other way but to kind of step out and try to do it my way, start my own businesses. So, and that's kind of how I went into it.
It's interesting to hear your path to get here. You and I are in the same field. I'm originally from Sri Lanka, and I entered the world of finance through technology before there was the term fintech. I was one of those lucky people who had a technology background, had built financial technology before coming into the United States, which kind of propelled me into the man's world, so to speak. And became a young CFO at 32 for a Fortune 100 company and has been there for more than 20 years.
Amazing.
But it's always one of those things where everybody assumes I am Dr. Henry's secretary, because how else could a CFO be other than a man, right? So I totally hear some of the challenges women face.
Yes.
And what pivoted you into not only starting your business, but focusing on women, because you and I are immigrants. We come from a different world. But in this society, up until the mid 80s, women were not even allowed to have bank accounts, not allowed to handle money. So the relationship to money was completely cut off, and wealth was not something women focused on. How are you helping women transition because their mothers and their grandmothers didn't come from that place?
Yes. So a lot of my clients, including, whether they're the Marie Tucson CPA or doing more of coaching under the Profit Lab, I think that shift has changed. There's a lot more women that are, feeling a little bit more empowered and being able to step out of their shell and be able to start businesses, but they do not usually have the support. I know when I started, went out on my own first time, 2016, I was scared. There was a lot of things that I didn't know, and I had a master's in accounting and didn't really help me start a business, to be honest. It did not prepare me on how to handle clients, how to look for clients, or even close a deal. I knew how to do financial analysis all day long, but that didn't mean that I could actually run the business of my own business. So the support was not there. And as we look at, let's say, different places where women are trying to find that information, now that's more available. For me, it wasn't. A lot of the times I would look up for things and I could not find them. The way I got into the information that I needed was actually just happened to be actually another man that was very well known in the area of sales and marketing. And that's how I started following him and became a coach. The reason I actually bring this back to women is that now, as a woman coach, certified by a very well-known mentor, I can actually bring the information that's missing. And because I have the finance background and I can combine the marketing and sales and provide a robust strategy, I could actually empower more women to actually excel in what they're doing or what they're trying to do.
Yeah, this is really interesting because I am of the age where stereotypically for girls, math is hard. I don't like math. I don't want to get into finances. I got my MBA, and it was back literally 40 years ago. And it's very unusual to have women in the MBA world. And so I'm wondering, how do you go about helping women overcome that fear of dealing with numbers, dealing with money, I just don't want to deal with all this. So how do you help them overcome their fear that math is okay, finances are okay, you
Of course.
handling the money is okay? How do you overcome some or deal with some of those resistances?
I love this question. What we focus on from a coaching standpoint is the mindset shift first, because if you don't have the money mindset, I can provide you homework. I can tell you what you need to do in the business to grow. But if you're not willing to shift that mindset, that's going to be very difficult. So one of the things we'll start working on, and a lot of my clients that are women, and at different age groups, they could be as young as 20, they could be 30. I've had clients as old as like almost 60. Starting a business for the first time is super fearful. Some of them don't know enough technology. Let's say I have a specific client right now I'm working with. She's in her 60s. She wants to create this, very unique apparel with some quotes that she's created. And she's like, I've waited 10 years or more. I've been wanting to do this forever, but I just finally had to take the chance. But again, there's this technology that she doesn't know. There's other things, social media she doesn't know. There's so many things to kind of shift through. Now, financially, I would say it's the math. One of the things we'll do is like, okay, you want to achieve how much? What does that mean to you? For example, if it's 100,000 a year, okay, great. So you want to replace a current job. Excellent. What is the sell? What is the product? How many of that do you have to sell? That conversation is happening right up front. It's not happening afterwards. It's happening on the first call, because we want to start putting that envisionment of what the financials would look like, even though we're not teaching them full profit loss analysis. We want to keep them focused on how much they need to sell to create revenue. So the focus on revenue, which is unlimited. You can grow as much as you want. And that's where we start with the mindset shift. A lot of times they were like, well, I don't know how much I want to make in a month or in a year. I haven't even thought about it. So that's where the conversation happens.
I'm so glad to hear you position it that way, because the conversation has to start somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting how we teach math determines women's propensity to want to learn numbers and be associated with numbers. I recall growing up in a culture where we learned from Montessori school, Montessori method of learning. And math was introduced to everybody, all children, before the age of 5 through cooking.
Mm-hmm.
They put us in teams, 2.5, we go to school, to Montessori school. They put us in teams. One team has to double the recipe and make chocolate chip cookies. The other team has to triple the recipe and make gingerbread cookies. So math was food, and cooking was not a female thing. Cooking was fun and a good way to introduce children to math. So we associated math with food and eating. So as we grew up, the gender roles didn't matter because everybody knew to cook, and everybody knew math because you need math to cook, right? So it's truly how you introduce children to this. And I'm curious to see if there's anything we can do differently as we are coaching the mothers to also give them the tools to coach their children differently, so that they're raising sons and daughters in a way that is wealth creation mindset empowering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think from my perspective, the way I handle in my household, at least I can share that. I don't know how people do it in theirs, but when I'm coaching the moms, let's say I'm telling them exactly the same things that I'm trying to do in my household, right? So out of experience, I have an 11-year-old that is actually on the same trainings that I'm doing for myself for sales, marketing, and money math and motivation and all that on Cardone University. And my son is starting to build those goals and things that we could think about. Where, for example, we'll be like, okay, let's do the math on, let's say we started a business or you started a business, and let's create a P&L. My son can actually figure out a P&L right now because I have had those conversations with them. They get some gift money. Okay, great. So what are you going to do with this? How you want to invest it? Where you want to put it? These are conversations that I will have with them on top of what I could have him on a specific training that most people will not get into, and in school they're not going to teach. Time control, and I won't say management because you have to control time. Controlling time, setting goals, having the right attitude, going above and beyond. Those are things that are in support of what do we do with our money. So money is important. We do want them to learn, but at the same time, how you get money, it also depends on your attitude and your outlook in life.
Yeah, this is really interesting because it seems like almost every conversation we have, regardless of the topic, it comes back to your attitude, your perspective, your mindset, and all of that. What have been some of the things that you have found to be most helpful in you changing, fortifying, strengthening your own mindset? And how do you go about sharing that with women, especially who are trying to get into the world of whether or not they're starting a business, they just in handling finances more effectively?
Yeah. So the way I handle it for myself, obviously it is somewhat of a requirement. Let's say for a CPA, we have to have our own CPE trainings. But beyond that, as a human being, and a business owner, I'm always training. Actually, I do training with my team every morning because I want them to be getting the same training. So we are all always training. So what I would suggest and actually recommend women to keep listening to, let's say you can get free resources. There's podcasts about finance. There's information that you can find, let's say on something like Cardone University. There's a lot of resources now available that they could actually learn. So this is in here, we're talking about mindset, how to do accounting. These are the types of podcasts they should be listening to gain more insight. And of course, it's not because I'm a coach, but in some cases, hiring the right coach would be helpful because it takes more than just listening to, you know, to have someone to help you actually implement what you're listening. So I can have a coaching client, I would tell them, all right, this is the training you're going to do. Here's the homework that you're going to do. But if you don't hold them accountable, they're just going to show up being, well, there were so many things happen. This happened. I had to take care of this. I had to take care of that. Well, we all have to take care of things, but it's like, who's holding you accountable? And that's a big shift, I think, that needs to happen. Women have to realize we needed a community, but we also need other women and coaches that would hold us accountable to what we say we're going to do.
And accountability is such an important aspect of life itself, in terms of money and in terms of life itself. And when we can hold ourselves accountable and show up responsibly, and we can be mindful with money and relationship with money, a lot of other things fall into place. So the curiosity question I have is, are you seeing a correlation between how comfortable women are in managing and handling money with a wealth creation mindset, not just transactional money, and their ability to have successful lives, not just in a business, but also personally?
Absolutely. There's definitely, when, you know, my experience, whether they're my accounting client or they're my coaching client, and like I said, I have a lot of women that I work with at different levels. They don't think of money as a wealth creation, because they're not even thinking wealth creation. They're thinking about right now, what do I need to put food on the table and all that stuff. So wealth creation is not in their mindset. So coming back to an example I was giving, when I ask a woman, let's say right now, how much money do you want to make in the next 90 days? Like, I don't know. I think I need about 20,000. What they're thinking about, maybe they have some credit cards they need to close out. So they're thinking so short term, like right now, and it doesn't even, you know, really put them in a better position. It's just like, let's close this bill. And that's not the way to create wealth. When we're creating wealth, we want to think about, what are our revenue streams? What are we going to do with the money that is, you know, saved? And then where are we going to invest it? Are we putting in real estate? Are we putting in the stock market? What do I need to learn to be able to do these investments? So most of the time, they're just thinking right now, what is the next thing I need to kind of close some bills? So my push would be always, why don't we think bigger? Why don't we put this massive 100,000 thing? Let's get you fired up to actually wake up, get scared a little bit. How am I going to hit this 100,000? I've never done it. Okay, great. Let's push you to get there. Because if we're going to think only right now, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, that's not wealth creation. That's just like, it's just bare minimum living.
So do you find that that there's a fear level, or maybe not well, in addition to it, a fear level, just I hadn't even really thought about wealth creation. I mean, that phrase, wealth creation, how often does that phrase even occur to women? And how do you deal with, open your mind to the notion of wealth creation?
Yes. So a lot of times, so one of the key things that I use, and it's part of what I've learned from my mentor, of course, is we use an assessment called 10x Super Life. So that assessment will actually ask questions based on, what income do you need to earn? What is the wealth number, dollar amount that you need to hit to, you know, what is that goal? So a lot of people don't know what it is, but it forces them to think about it. You know, what are the relational aspects you want to work on? What are the spiritual aspects? So it's like 7 areas, professional aspects you want to work on. And that kind of, with a training to help them think through, what are those pieces look like? Then we ask them kind of, okay, multiply that by 10. What does that look like? Let them get scared, because they haven't even thought about those numbers. They haven't thought about what a better life could look like. They're just so much right now. They haven't thought that far. So that activity actually gets them to kind of open up. So when they come up on the first call, that's exactly what we're reviewing. Like, oh, you said you want to get to this. So some people leave it almost empty. They don't know what they want. Some people have dreams, so they put it down like, wow, this is exciting. Have you gotten close to this? Where you want to go? What are the income generating activities we're going to focus on so we can get you to the, let's say, real estate investment? What is that going to look like? So that's where it kind of spurs the conversation because they're going through that activity. Yeah.
It's amazing how time flies when we are having interesting and insightful conversations. But I really want you to take a moment and share with our audience how they can get a hold of you. I know we can see it in your background. Any other information you want to share? And then what nugget of wisdom do you have as we bring this to a close?
Absolutely. So the best way to reach out, they can directly email me, marie@marietorossiancpa.com. And the biggest nugget I would give is that I would like every woman to take a moment and think about what their journey looks like. What is that, perfect scenario of their life? What are the steps they need to take to get there? Whether it's having a mentor, a coach, training, what they need to do. So what's the gap? And another thing is for specifically women that are trying to start businesses or have started businesses and they're still struggling in the early stages, to look inside and see what are the top things that they love to do, the skill set that they're super good at. What are the skills that they have it, but it's not their favorite thing to do, like tasks that they don't like to do. And then what is it that they hate? They, like totally hate, do not want to touch it. Because one of the things I think it holds people back is investing in team members that could help them get to the place faster. So I want them to be more open into who they need to hire to get them to where they need to go. And that's where I think their biggest fear lies. They're not ready to do that. So that's my biggest tip I could give.
Thank you so much, Coach Marie. This has been a fun and yet impactful conversation. Thank you so much for spending the time with Robin and I to educate our audience and also get them motivated to think about money and goals and build not just towards jumping a curb or a threshold right now, but building towards something larger for long-term wealth creation. And to our audience out there, you heard Coach Marie just talk about why it's important for you to have a plan and know what you want to do, know what you have to do, and what are the things you have to do that you don't want to do, and who are the people who are going to help you get that accomplished so that your journey continues. Because nothing in this life is accomplished alone. And we only go further for longer when we have the right support system. So take an introspective journey and think about what do you need? And think about this community of women helping women, women investing in women, and reach back out to us. And we are happy to pair you up with the right people. And if you want to come here and talk about what it is you're dealing with, we're happy to do that too. So as we think about what life and life ahead looks like, remember, we can support each other and we can get there together.